Artificial Intelligence for Everyone 14 meetup. Jau reikia pradėti. Intelligence tada iš mažosios, for everyone numeris grotelės 14. Ir meetup pradžioje parašyti.
Čia?
Čia pradžioje. Let me try to make this one louder. So let's start. My name is Dovydas, and welcome to Vilnius School of AI, Artificial Intelligence for Everyone, meetup number 14. Today is a special day for all deep learning and artificial intelligence engineers. Can anybody tell me why? TensorFlow 2.0 released after how long being in development or preview or alpha or beta? Does anyone remember when TensorFlow was announced? TensorFlow 2.0 was announced last year, if I remember correctly. So we had some time to prepare. And I'm sure that who has used TensorFlow 2.0 in any flavor? Release candidates, beta version, alpha version. If you are super brave, who have been using TensorFlow before the official TensorFlow 2.0 before the official release? Raise your hands. Yeah, not so many brave people. So can you? Does anyone maybe want to share what's going to change for you now that TensorFlow 2.0 has been released? No? Anyone? Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that, I guess, in the discussion section before the meetup. Not everyone is very brave. So I'm so happy to see so many of you here. Usually we are able to fit in the room. There are 2 more chairs right here and a few more chairs right there. So if you don't want to stand for an hour, now's your chance. While everybody is getting ready, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Tech Consult, Vilnius Tech Park, Code Academy, and Vinted. These companies are amazing. They make this whole thing happen. Send me to conferences, and now I can tell you about what I learned in the conference. So big applause for them. Our agenda for today is, first of all, we'll talk what we accomplished as a community, what have we done since the last meetup. Then I'll tell you a little bit about what I learned in the O'Reilly AI conference. Then I'll tell you about artificial intelligence workshops, one of our, signature products, teaching people actually how to become artificial intelligence or machine learning engineers or data scientists. few different career paths, and finally, the most fun part, networking. That's, I guess, where if you have like the topics for more in-depth discussions, you want to fight me as a TensorFlow guy if you're like a PyTorch person. So if you want to prove me that I'm wrong and I should only look at PyTorch as my only deep learning framework, then it's your chance to prove that you are right and I'm wrong. So networking, always the most fun part. Can I get a raise of hands who is here for the first time? We usually get a lot of newcomers. That's like totally expected. I just want in short to tell you, because I had like a few questions before the meetup start, what's the deal with this artificial intelligence meetup? What are we talking about? Who is it for? Is it only for engineers? Or is it only for like people who have read about like artificial intelligence on Delphi and thinks it's a new good way to make money? So artificial intelligence, this meetup is like 90% for like people who actually care about actual implementations, and maybe like a little bit, a small like portion of general artificial intelligence as in philosophical part, as in, to talk about your friends, what's going to be cool in 20 years when artificial intelligence becomes like conscious and we don't have to work anymore. So a little bit of this fun factor, but mostly we are like down-to-earth people who mostly care about engineering, mostly care about building artificial intelligence products, which can work right now, not in 20 years or not in whatever when the fairy tale artificial intelligence super robot does something. So that's the whole deal with our community, and that's the whole deal with Vilnius School of AI. So hopefully, I hope that you are in the right meetup. So let's start. What we accomplished. Since I've been away for pretty much all of the month since the last meetup, so I couldn't really get a lot of information what the community accomplished. So I didn't have the slides, but since I know what happened, I'll just tell you. So first of all, we had some amazing projects from artificial intelligence workshops. I think 6 or 7 people presented their projects last week. The ones who are learning now the data science track, they made some amazing projects. Really proud of them. Really proud that you can learn data science for free using like online resources. It's not like super easy, but if you have determination, and you have like support group who help you out, or just people who you can talk with about the same problems which you are having while learning, you can do it and you can make amazing products, making me proud. So I'm very happy for that. In addition to this, obviously I've been to the AI conference, and obviously I've been on the holidays. So that's the 2 slides which I have prepared. Not as I told you, didn't have time to prepare a lot of get all the information from the community, what was accomplished. So we have to live with that. Now the most important part, I guess, for today, the official part, presentation. So the presentation, what I learned at Artificial Intelligence Conference organized by O'Reilly. I thought long and hard about how to structure this presentation. I've been to, if I counted correctly, I've been at 28 different presentations. So even if I spend 1 slide per 1 presentation, which I've seen, it will be still way too many slides and way too long. We will be here till, I guess, midnight. So I decided really to distill down to the main key messages which I got during the conference. And these messages come in three different types. So first is general information about like about the conference where it took place, like that I've been here, that what's up with San Francisco and San Jose, and what's Silicon Valley, how it looks like, from the first person perspective, from a person who has never been in the United States. That's me. So that's the general information about the location, about the like general vibe of Silicon Valley. Second part is inspirations. What things really like I don't want to say blew my mind, but what things really inspired me that I started, immediately, basically during the presentation, you start thinking, wow, this is amazing. Like, I should investigate this one definitely. And you start Googling this thing and putting a lot of bookmarks of that you have to check this one later because it's so interesting. Finally, number 3 is my take on the facts. What I have seen in the conference, what I decided was important, and what I decided was like the state of current global artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence community vibe, what is happening in the community, how big is the community, how experienced is the community, and stuff like that. Obviously, this is not like the top one artificial intelligence conference. That would be NeurIPS, but like NeurIPS is pretty much the Olympics of artificial intelligence. I don't think it's also very representative of what's happening in the community. Like, we are not in the Olympics in Lithuania. I don't think we have a lot of people who are either speakers or work even in the companies who present at NeurIPS. So this one is much more, in my opinion, this conference is much more representative of actual state of the community. So let's begin. First of all, the information. The conference took place in San Jose. So I'm not sure if you know what's the city, San Jose. It's actually bigger than San Francisco. It's really close to San Francisco. Basically, most of the companies which like Google, Facebook, and so on, Apple, they are all in between San Jose and San Francisco in one of the various smaller towns which form, all in all, they form like Silicon Valley. So basically 3 major cities in the Bay Area are San Jose, San Francisco, and Oakland. And since San Jose is the biggest one, I thought at least it will be similar to San Francisco. Turns out it's not that big. It's basically this whole Bay Area is a big urban area with offices sprinkled around everywhere. But it's not like a financial district like in New York where you have only skyscrapers. It's much more like just Vilnius, and with some buildings which have offices of bigger big companies. So that was my first surprise, that it's not super busy and super big city. Has this relaxing atmosphere which I really liked. So you can see this nice graffiti on a garage door. So I have to prove that I was there. I'm not just making this thing up. So that's me, and I am at Artificial Intelligence Conference. Very important slide. Then I met some people. So this is in the mornings we had this speed introductions. I don't remember what's exactly the name, how they called it. But the main idea is that you talk with a lot of people in a very short time. That's very useful because you meet a lot of people, you learn about their problems, and you try to, in one sentence, summarize what you are here for. So I was there for basically 2 things. My goal was to learn about recommendation systems, and my goal was to learn about building machine learning team. These are the things which I my major challenges at work. I want to build a recommender system, and I also want to build my machine learning team, which will build the recommender system. So these very related stuff. Luckily, they had a mix of developers, managers, team leaders, just not saying random people, but more like entrepreneurs who have done one or both of these things. So the learnings, like meeting people, was, I would say, the most important part of the presentation, was talking with people who had insights on how to solve these problems. The advice which my company's, I talked with my company's head of engineering. He gave me this advice for going to the conference. Know exactly what your problem is. If you have your goal for this conference super clear to you, you will get a lot out of this conference. If you don't know, if you are just looking around and trying to get whatever kind of knowledge, the conference will not be useful for you. So that's what I try to do. I try to have exactly clear stated problem which I want to solve. So meeting people. The conference, at first, like San Jose, as I told you, didn't look like a big city. Then the conference center turned out to be quite large. This is just the keynote, the keynote conference hall. We had, too many to count. Basically, maybe about 10 tracks at the same time happening. So you are seeing, only the keynotes are for everyone. Only the keynotes, don't have overlapping schedule. But every single other presentation is happening at the same time with at least 5 or 6 others. So you had you are basically building your own conference. You can also spend some time just not going anywhere, basically doing the hallway track, as it's called, and just talking to people who are at the conference, but who are not going to any specific presentation at that time. So no, I think probably no two people had the same experience as I did in the conference. Nobody chose exactly the same presentations which I've been to. So just to show you that it was massive, and that you had really a lot of customization options. Now the keynotes. The keynotes were the most inspiring part. The keynotes were delivered by the keynotes were delivered in a more for inspiration way versus for teaching way. So keynotes didn't have a lot of technical stuff. They mostly had a lot of, this is what we care about at Intel. This is what we care about at Uber. This is what we care about at Twitter. So they all had these higher level, something's not right, yeah. They mostly had people from upper management presenting the main challenges with artificial intelligence at these companies. So that's the inspiration part. The first most inspiring thing, the most inspiring presentation was from Gardner. It was called Getting from A to AI. He had a very good analogy. Imagine that imagine your life 20 years ago. Imagine that you want to go from, in a different, let's say you travel, the same trip which I did. You travel to a different country, and you travel in a big city, and you want to go somewhere. You had to print maps. I don't know if see a lot of young people here, so I'm not sure if you ever experienced actually printing maps. I was barely on this one. I didn't had to print maps, but I had to look things up before the internet on this map which you buy at the gas station. So maps, not having a GPS was the main challenge. Now we have GPS. Getting lost, getting truly lost, is a difficult thing. Not taking the right turn, yeah, that happens. That happened for me quite a few times. There you have 5 different types of turns. But getting truly lost, if you make a wrong turn, just recalculating, and you get chosen a different route to your destination. So he had this analogy that we need something like a GPS for companies to go from where we are right now to being AI company. I've talked about for companies to becoming like artificial intelligence companies. I think for free meetups, like back in summer. So if you want to check them out, I think these videos are available. Mostly inspired by Andrew Ng book, like Artificial Intelligence Transformation Playbook. But Eric really summarized how to go from there you are right now, how to become like artificial intelligence company. So the steps are basically he said that in marketing we have 4 P's, in this transformation we have 4 D's. So first you have to discover the problem which you are dealing with, discover your challenges or discover what you want to achieve with this artificial intelligence thing. Then you have to get the data, that's the second D. Then you have to develop the solution, that's the third D. Finally, you have to deploy and maintain the solution, that's the fourth D. So even though I understand that's not really groundbreaking news for you, but that was like very well put and really inspired me to think about that. Probably every single one of us are either in a company right now or plan to work in a company or plan to find your own company. So if you do one of these things, your transforming your company to an AI company will have to follow these steps, and this transformation has to be like very you have to be not caring, but you have to be very conscious about it, that you are doing this thing and doing the transformation to AI. So that was inspiration number 1. Inspiration number 2, totally different thing, enabling AI's potential through wafer-scale integration by Andrew Feldman. Do you know what's a wafer? Or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this one correctly. Who knows what that is? Right, few people. So when you have your computers, are you aware that your computers have a thing called CPU? Who knows that? So CPUs are made not one by one, they are made in this whole big square or like a circle called wafer. And I've been to Intel Museum and we show that in this one wafer we have thousands of CPUs which are been cut and made this one big circuit is cut and made. They are making a lot of CPUs in one batch. Basically, you can think about it as batching CPU processing. So what these guys thought, let's use this whole big wafer, let's make one CPU out of that. So he actually had the most interesting presentation style which I've seen. So I want to show you a part of his presentation, only 2 minutes. So, but I found that everybody found that really interesting. So let's see.
In our field, we've been building computers for about 80 years. Think about that. This is the ENIAC. It's the first electronic computer. And even in its day, it was described as a gigantic brain. And since then, computers have gotten faster and faster on a year after year basis, exponentially. Today, each one of you has the equivalent power of more than 50 million ENIACs in your pocket. It's a mobile phone. And despite all of this, our machines today still are not intelligent. In many ways, modern computing is pretty much the same as it was in 1945. This is a modern data center, and look at it. It even looks the same. There are cables everywhere. And what I want to focus on is not how they look the same, but how in some sense machines are still operating the same way. So our paradigm of computing was invented by Alan Turing, and the way it works is a computer programmer can specify a sequence of instructions, and this is a computer program. We do this all the time. And what's special about it, he called it a universal computer because he was able to prove that for any algorithm, whatever you might imagine, you can specify some sequence of instructions that carries out that task. And so we thought, if we can just keep making computers faster, maybe eventually someone will discover an algorithm for intelligence. Now, with AI, what we're seeing today is that that's not quite the way it works. Instead, somebody shows up, our AI practitioners come with a model, maybe a neural network, and you specify this hypothesis, that's the input to the machine. You then pour a bunch of data over this, and as data fluxes through this model, it acts on the parameters of that model to create trained weights. And these weights, the output of the machine, is the equivalent of the computer program. So we're using data and experience to generate the program instead of specifying it by hand. And you can see how this works if we consider how computers have been used to solve the games of chess and Go. This is Garry Kasparov playing IBM's Deep Blue in 1997. And when IBM solved this game, they solved it in the same way that you might solve tic-tac-toe. So what they did is they searched the game tree, and they had a group of software and hardware engineers and even Go masters on their team perfecting some rules to say, is this board configuration better or worse than some other board configuration? And then they let it go at the greatest scale they could build at that time. But when they won the match, that machine did little else other than play the game of chess. And in fact, IBM dismantled that machine afterwards because it didn't have any other uses. If you compare this to the recent match of Google's DeepMind team against Lee Sedol playing Go, they did something very different. They used a convolutional neural network and a reinforcement learning setup, and they didn't have a single Go master anywhere on their team. Instead, their software played the game of Go millions of times against itself, and it learned the art of playing Go. And convolutional neural networks, they don't have a single if-then-else statement anywhere in them. It's just a bunch of mathematics. And what I think is most special about this is it generalizes. So that team, before they demonstrated Go to the world, showed us convolutional nets and reinforcement learning playing Atari video games, like a child might. And convolutional neural networks are also used in image captioning systems. And this is what a CNN had to say about Lee Sedol's match. A man is studying a board game. Okay, so this breadth of applicability brings back Alan Turing's original question. Is it possible that a machine built of parts could have the same general intelligence that a person does? And we clearly, in our field, have a long way to go before this might be achieved. But today, the vehicle to explore this question is the graphics processing unit, and this is what most people are using. And so as hardware designers, we step back and ask the question, is it possible that a device designed to put pixels on a monitor is the ideal vehicle to explore artificial intelligence? Is this the path we should be on? And in truth, it turns out that a GPU is just less bad than a CPU. And today there are over 50 projects in AI hardware, and they're from universities, they're from startups like mine, and from the largest established companies in the industry, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Intel, Alibaba, Tencent. All of these companies have AI hardware plays, and what none of them are doing, no one is reinventing a GPU. Here's why. No matter what retrofits you make to this car, no matter how many exhaust pipes you add to it, or how many engines you pile on, it is never going to be able to do the job of driving me from California, my home, here to Beijing. It's just not up to the task. And so it's true with AI as well. You need to fundamentally think of all parts of what you're trying to do and design that into the computer solution. So what might the hardware appliances of tomorrow look like? Well, there are a bunch of really cool and exotic technologies on the hardware horizon. And all of these technologies incorporate some new law of physics into the way that actual computation is performed. And because of that, they're doing some fundamental research. We can expect these things to be on maybe a 10+ year time frame. So optical computers use the interference patterns of laser light to perform matrix multiplication directly with photons. Quantum computers put particles into a state of superposition to solve combinatorial problems using quantum physics. And neuromorphic designs borrowed straight from biology. They use analog circuits and even crystallization in their manufacture process, making every manufactured device have a unique fingerprint. Our community should be absolutely excited that people are investing in this, and one day these can become a reality. But as AI practitioners, we must not wait, because AI is happening right now.
Yeah, so presentation from the people making, let me get back. Turns out showing a video was not the most smooth solution. Let me try to get back to the actual presentation. Here we go. The next presentation, really inspirational one, was going beyond fully supervised learning. I see a lot of workshop students, so can anybody tell me what's supervised learning and what are alternatives? Don't be shy. We should have done, we always do, a test like, please raise your hands if you know something. So who knows what supervised learning is? Right, go ahead. Yep, you. Someone else.
I believe it's basically when you have some data and you put that data into the model, and then you can get those outputs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way how you supervise learning.
Yeah. So to basically what he said, just to make it more book type of answer. Supervised learning is when you have the features and you also have the answers. So if you have a picture, you have a label, that's a cat. That's the right answer, the word cat. So that would be a supervised learning. Why it's called supervised? Because you give the model the correct answer, what we expect you to do. An alternative, which was the only alternative for a while, was unsupervised learning. And unsupervised learning was all about not having labels, just throwing a bunch of data and using this data to get some kind of insights. For example, you get some, you see some things are clustered together, maybe you find some anomalies and stuff like that. All in all, unsupervised learning was a little less interesting than supervised learning. And everything was kind of riding on this supervised learning train. Now, we have some new developments in semi-supervised learning and self-supervised learning. So semi-supervised learning is when you don't have the labels, but basically you come up with a good way to reinvent the labels. For example, you have a picture, and you have a different picture which is generated by your neural network. Then you have a different neural network which tries to distinguish which one is real and which one is generated. So that would be a generative adversarial network. Never say that word in full. They are always called GANs. So these GANs they don't have the right answer, but these somehow come up with the right answer. Another example would be language models. A language model is when you try to build, when you try to understand the language by basically taking 5 words from, like, you have like a big text corpus, like a book or something. Then you take like 5 words and you say to the model, now predict what's the next word. And then you take the next 5 words and you say, now predict what's the next word. So basically, you don't have like actual correct answers, but you like structure the task in such a way that you get the labels anyway. So basically, it's about like what Jeremy Howard, in past AI lectures, what he called, it's all about a smart way to invent the labels. So this one was also really inspiring, showing examples of semi-supervised and self-supervised examples. Really shows that the industry is moving beyond the only like fully supervised learning path on which it is right now. Next presentation was even more eye-opening. It was about open-endedness. And me personally, I have never heard this term before. Anybody have came across this one? It was like with all the people with whom I talked in the conference, not like I didn't met a person who knew about open-endedness before. This thing is all about running the algorithm without like clear goal in mind. So they even wrote a book, Why Greatness Cannot Be Planned, The Myth of Objective, and we have a very good example that they basically built this reinforcement learning model, which learns to walk. It learned to walk without any like guidance that you should walk or do something. Just evolutionally, these algorithms learn to walk. Then they put it into more and more difficult environments, and they compared it with like regular reinforcement learning approaches. And what we found is when your model doesn't have to be strictly always pushed in the direction of the right answer, they came up with solutions which even reinforcement learning agents didn't come up with. So we all know that reinforcement learning comes up with like weird solutions like, oh, humans never thought about this one, robots are inventing their own language and stuff. So this one is this idea, just even more general. So haven't read the book, but I was really inspired about this open-endedness thing. They even said that, look, you can imagine Earth as an algorithm, which is basically an open-ended algorithm, not trying to do anything, just happening for like, and it came up with like intelligent life, came up with all these different interesting species, and so on and so on. So this one was, I guess, the most inspiring thing which I learned in the conference. Now it's time to go to the facts. And facts are what I actually took out and what I told my colleagues in Vinted about like what I've learned in the conference. I didn't tell about the inspirational stuff, mostly about the facts. So first fact is that major IT companies are transitioning to AI. That means I met people from AT&T, I met people from Walmart, met people from HP, obviously I met people from Facebook, Uber, and Twitter, but a lot of the companies which you would think like, oh, they probably shouldn't do anything with AI, like what's AI for their business? A lot of these companies are sending their employees to learn more about AI and how to apply AI in their companies. A lot of these companies, like basically with everybody with whom I talked, they are in the early stages of this AI adoption. It might look like by basically checking, if you only check like NeurIPS or like only like Google AI blog, it looks like this AI thing is pretty much solved and over and everybody's using AI except us. While in reality, I talk to people, like probably like Silicon Valley should be a bit like ahead of everybody else. So they are not fully solved. They are still figuring out solutions. They are still figuring out best practices. That means we are not like late to this artificial intelligence train. Looks like that this artificial intelligence thing is going to grow at an even faster pace than it is growing right now. Why I'm thinking so? Because AI training, again, a lot of people from not director positions, not like engineering positions. I met a lot of people from data science, data analytics. Basically, the majority were data scientists or data analysts. Like maybe 10 to 20% were like machine learning engineers. Also, like a lot of technical team leads, some developers, some, like as I said, entrepreneurs. A mix of people, but a mix of professions, but a lot, mostly data scientists and data analysts. So these people will be able to use the machine learning techniques when the company gets ready to actually implement them. Next fact is AI is still about the data. Data is the constraint. Data is the source for the machine learning models. Everybody's starting with a business problem, and the second most important component is the data. How can we solve? Basically you're limited. Your solution space is limited by what kind of data you have. So first of all, to do any meaningful work with AI in like bigger companies, not just startup that just does one thing, probably you should start with getting your data ready. If you don't have your data ready, probably you won't be able to do anything with these new technologies. Next thing which I learned is Python starts to show its limits, even though like Python right now is like overwhelmingly dominant in the machine learning space. Basically no serious alternative exists, but like people from Google are creating this Swift for TensorFlow framework. Very interesting presentation, by the way, from the guys from Swift for TensorFlow. They shown us, like, obviously the actual calculations, the CPU is not using Python. We are writing Python, which is basically the glue code between the lower level frameworks such as TensorFlow, which does all the heavy lifting and actually sends instructions, transpiles probably the instructions to your GPUs or TPUs or CPUs, whatever. So it shouldn't be that Python is the limiting factor, but actually it starts to become the limiting factor, because even the code happening on not in these computational steps, it is starting to become a bottleneck. And this is thing which I never expected this to be the case, but in the presentation we said we are solving this one. Obviously, since Swift is quite a good language, it's typed language, it is much easier to make assumptions about your data. So it has a lot of additional nice properties which you can get if you're using Swift for TensorFlow. Obviously, it's not there. You cannot. You can go and try it, but you cannot use Swift for TensorFlow in any serious production-ready project. But hopefully, at some day, we will have this thing production-ready. What I also found that PyTorch was the thing which everybody talked about and everybody wanted to learn PyTorch, whereas in reality, in production, everybody used TensorFlow. And most of the time, not even TensorFlow, the low-level TensorFlow, mostly everybody was using either Keras or TF Keras. So one of these actual practitioners which build something either as a pilot project, lots of pilot projects, maybe for every 5 pilot projects we had one production ready project or production, like model running in production, and most of these they're actually running TensorFlow with Keras. So only a few, like some people tried PyTorch as a for a pilot, but most of the things are actually still happening with TensorFlow. Now with TensorFlow 2.0, a lot less reason, like a lot fewer reasons to switch from TensorFlow to PyTorch. This one was actually interesting. Intel, major sponsors of this conference, they kind of build a strong argument. I really liked their marketing play. They built this really strong argument that you should train your models on CPUs. They put some performance metrics, they put some like cost analysis, and it looks like previously, I guess, before the conference, I would thought that this is insane. It's like saying that, I don't know, cigarettes are good for you, but right now I'm not so sure. So they have like at least a very good marketing team, and they build a strong case for training models on CPUs. Obviously, these have to be like special Xeon CPUs, which support like some type of AVX, I think 512, are like instructions and so on and so on. What that means in reality, if you are using CPU for inference, not for model training, but for inference, probably you want to switch, but switching to GPU cloud is like expensive and difficult, and you have to do a lot of stuff which you haven't done before. Maybe it's not a terrible idea to still keep using CPUs for inference, for your model inference. Of course, if latency is still like not an issue for you. So we are not allowed to make fun of people using CPUs anymore, I guess. What I was surprised that AI ethics is being finally taken seriously. A lot of industry leaders talked about making your models transparent. Basically, transparency for the ethics part was the main thing. We have to understand what the neural networks are doing. And I really like this idea as a developer, as well as the consumer of these all AI, new AI technologies. I really like that we will have to understand what's actually happening and not inadvertently hurt some people because, like, look, I trained my model. It works like 95% accuracy, but maybe this accuracy is like 99% for some people and only like 50% for other people, which is kind of unfair and not what we intended for. Finally, one more thing, that AutoML was really hot topic like 2 years ago, and then last year, and this year still hot topic. There are improvements in this area. They're still happening. We are still not fully there yet with the AutoML. I doubt that we will be in the near future, especially for custom problems, but looks like that AutoML is solving some of the basic cases better and better, making the barrier to entry for companies not as big anymore as it used to be. The cloud is the easiest place to deploy your models. They are, I guess, initially making the full infrastructure to run your models on your own servers really hard. So if you're just starting out and you can use a cloud, that would be your best bet. A lot of cloud players like AWS was super, I guess not aggressive, but promotional in this event that, oh, look, everybody's using AWS to run all of the machine learning models if they are using the cloud. So of course there are good alternatives like Google Cloud and even Microsoft Azure, but if you can use the cloud, it's pretty good deal right now. They are really trying to run your models. They are trying to make a reasonable case for you to run your models on the cloud versus on your own machines. Finally, the last thing is AI needs better tools. That was my main takeaway. we are still missing so many essential tooling. We still have a lot to build for this industry to be like in par with other software engineering areas. So the tooling part is, I think, where the most improvements are going to happen in the next few years. TensorFlow 2.0 is a perfect example, and hopefully we'll have more of these open source, powerful projects which everybody can use and which enables more companies to try artificial intelligence and improve their products this way. Do you have any questions? So we can, of course, like talk more in depth about this thing in the discussion part. That's actually very good. I'm a bit behind schedule, as most of the time that happens. Yes.
Clouds and lake. What's the advantages of cloud and lakes of data?
Sorry, the advantages of the cloud versus running it on premises.
No, by the lake. Data can be in the lake and in the cloud.
I'm not super familiar with this one. Like we can talk, like maybe we can talk about this one more in the discussion part. Okay. So, yes, more questions.
Can you tell a little bit more about how I think it was about the unsupervised learning, how the algorithm or how they made something walk without specifying that it should walk?
I think like I'll post the video is very interesting, and I think it's available for free from O'Reilly. They explain their obviously they run like lots of generations, and I don't think that they built some kind of model. They give it some reinforcement, but I remember that they are not giving it reinforcement to walk. I think they are giving the reinforcement to move to this direction. They are giving it reinforcement direction versus like making it walk, and then it learns to walk on itself, like on their own. It's not like obviously not fully like there is no reward. Just sit there. Nothing would happen. Model wouldn't train to do anything. So, but I'll post the video later in the Facebook group if you're interested. Can't really explain. Like it's a bit like I'm not like doing reinforcement learning, so have a lot of concepts which I might not explain super correctly. So let's move to the next part, AI workshops. By the way, who are here to learn more about the workshops? Yeah, a lot of people, as expected. So workshops are finally open again. They used to be only I think the last batch was open. We had a big break because we are fully full previously. Now we are getting a new batch of people who actually want to learn the AI engineering part. Let me tell you about what the workshops are all about. So the workshops are designed to make you an AI expert, as in a person who can learn to use software engineering skills to build the artificial intelligence and machine learning models. We have some principles for the workshops. We don't create content. We tend to be practical. We try to maximize your success rate, as in we try to make you achieve this goal. Like I always have a job for a person to be job ready. That means that even if your objective is different than getting a job, even if you want to start your own startup or you want to use AI in your current company, if you are job ready, that means if you can get a job, that means you can do this whole, like a lot of different other things too. So that means that the whole thing is not about teaching you statistics. It's always good to know statistics, but if that doesn't really help you to like build the actual model, just maybe improve the model to get a tiny bit better performance, we are not going to focus on that. We are much more focusing then in this case on, you know, getting all the steps right and getting them like 80% right and getting a model which is good enough versus getting this first part and understanding mathematics super well. So you cannot do everything. Like, it would be amazing if you would be also 100% perfect in math and statistics, and at the same time learning the whole thing, the whole pipeline, how to build models. But it's not just doable, so we focus on being practical, on actually getting the first model working, and this is the objective which I use as a metric. Finally, I try to incorporate agile and lean principles for learning. These principles work really well in software development, so they also tend to work in learning. The structure of the course, the course is structured into classes, and let me get, like, so those of you who are interested in workshops, can I get like a raise of hands who are just starting out and who want to be in the F class, just learning Python fundamentals? A few people. What about E class? Those who have some programming experience or have some Python experience and want to learn more about Python, since it's, you know, very useful, like the only language so far to do artificial intelligence and machine learning. What about those who have Python knowledge and want to do data science? Okay, not a lot of you. What about the data analysts and data scientists who want to learn machine learning? Perfect. What about those people who know machine learning but want to learn these new and shiny deep learning skills? A few people. Good. What about those who know deep learning but really want to push to the next level, the advanced deep learning? Finally, nobody. So the whole structure, as you see, we are structured like a train. We start from the F class, and this F class goes up to the S class for people who want to, in the end, be able to do artificial intelligence projects. Artificial intelligence projects, that's like using deep learning or machine learning, or I don't know, like reinforcement learning, not necessarily deep, but some kind of reinforcement learning to build some kind of AI project, which is like serves as your portfolio items for you getting a job, or serves as your, I don't know, maybe side business idea, things like that. So the structure, if you want to join our workshops, what you have to, like how it works in practice, you have to commit to more than 8 hours per week. We have meetings every Saturday. You learn at home. We only meet once a week. There we sync our knowledge. That means you watch Coursera, edX, Udemy, Udacity. You watch all these free resources at home, and then we meet. We talk about what you learned. Have you learned everything correctly? Do you have questions? And so on. That's the whole idea about these AI workshops. They are designed to give you support, give you answers, but not provide material for you to, or provide, you know, classroom-based learning. Any questions about that?
You mentioned you don't provide any material, so that's completely fine. You provide guidelines. I mean, Udemy is drowning in material. Every time I use YouTube, I get tons of ads. Use my training and my, so you know, you provide guidelines.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we are trying to provide. We give you structure. We tell you, like, we start, like this class starts with this Coursera course, and the first week you have to watch lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3. Also, you have to sign up for this website, and you have to solve problem number 1, problem number 2, problem number 3. So that's the kind of like an example of the structure which we give you. And now then every member of the class has the same objective to complete in that week. Then we meet on Saturdays and we say, so watching lesson number 2, was everything clear? Yeah, everything clear. One person says, oh, I have a question. He said that and that. Can you explain why is this relevant in your like machine learning day-to-day job? And you know, like we discuss about these topics. We talk about solutions, what was difficult. Sometimes the information is like wrong or irrelevant, and everything changes really quickly. So we have to constantly, and the courses, we are not updated, you know, every year. So some material gets out of date. So we have to do a lot of adjustments. We also have to use a lot of different courses because there is like not even close one course which can basically deliver you from the starting Python to knowing or to, like deep learning projects. So we use, I think, like more than 20 different Coursera, Udacity, Udemy, not Udemy actually, Udemy I paid. So we everything is structured only about the free content which you can legally consume for free without any extra payment. Is that clear?
Yeah. So when are you going to start and what's the start date?
So we have been doing this AI workshops for almost a year now. We have different, time slots, and these time slots like move to the next classes. So you will be joining existing community. You will be joining people as I mentioned in the beginning. Some people are graduating from the previous classes, but like spoiler alert, 8 hours per week for learning. Also, learning is not that you are forced to learn because you paid like 3,000 euros for that. So it's like optional. That means quite a few people can do it. So we have a dropout rate. So that means even if 12 people started the class, we end up with like 4 or 5 people who graduate. Also the course, like full disclosure, it's going to be hard. Not going to sugarcoat it. If you know that in your life I have started like these 20 different things, finished none of that, so probably you won't be able to finish this one too. It's going to be pretty intense and pretty hard. On the other hand, we are giving you as much support as we can, so you have to try to basically weight your ability to finish the course. That said, you will be joining, depending on your level, either an existing class who just graduated, or you will be forming a new class with all the newbies. So the actual dates, so the next slide says how to participate. So you participate first by joining the Slack. There you'll find a form which you have to complete. The registration will be open for about 10 more days, so till the end of next week. And after the registration closes, I will form, I'll try to, as soon as possible, form new classes, and then these new classes start. You will be assigned to Slack channels, and you will be informed when your class will start. So this whole process will most likely take about a month. So actual starting date will be more or less in a month. Any questions about participation? Yes?
What is the duration of one class?
The duration of one class varies depending on the class. Most often it's between 8 weeks and 12 weeks. So now it's time for the most fun, most important part, networking. Thank you all for coming. See you in the next meetups.
klausimą užduoti.
Prašau. Tai dabar tam ir networkingas.
Visus kursus čia maždaug metams, metai, jeigu taip iš eilės viskas.
Jeigu pradėsiu nuo nulio, tai ilgiau negu metų. Pusantrų metų.
7 klasės po 10 savaičių.
Pusantrų metų yra visas kursas. Aš more or less.
Mano draugas sakė pertekėti, dabar ilsisi.
Tas irgi yra fine.
Kad jeigu su darbu derinti. Man įdomu, kontentas. Aš esu, aš tos basicus kramtau, kaip sakė, nėra mano.
Kurio dalyko basicus?
Tai ar yra tikslesnis galbūt sąrašas, ką po pirmos klasės, ką tu mokėsi?
Po pirmos klasės turi mokėti programuoti ir turi mokėti programuoti su visom. Čia pagrindiniai dalykai.
Šis toks labai abstraktu, libraries maždaug ten tiksliau.
Registracijos? Taip, ne, viešai man atrodo ne. Viešai ne, bet kai prisijungsi prie Slacko, prašyk man, aš nusiųsiu tau linką. Tai yra public, tai reiškia neužrakinta, bet tai nėra vieša, kad aš tai promautų. Tai toks.
Aš atsiprašau, kad įsidėliu, bet praėjęs dalį.
Dalius jo, praėjęs jau dalį.
Sakyčiau, naudingiausias dalykas yra kurikulum. Nes iš tikrųjų, tų variantų, ko mokytis, tai, ta prasme, reklamos yra vo. Ir ką pasirinkti, neaišku, bet tai, kiek aš praėjau, tai, ką daugas sudėlioja, tai yra labai aiškus kurikulum, kuris įgalina tave, net jeigu to dalyko, kurio tau paskui reikės, nėra, sakykime, tų žinių užtenka jau sakykime, pačiam surasti.
O šiaip gyvenime jau pasiteisino, jau kažkur pradėjai naudoti?
Nemažai pradėjęs tos basics, tai aš galvoju, man reiktų.
Aš pridėsiu jo prie to, kad Dalius pasakė, kiekvienam svarbiausias dalykas yra skirtingas. Man atrodo, kad pagrindinė vertė, kurią gauna dauguma žmonių, vėlgi, vieniem curriculum yra svarbiausia, kitiem yra svarbiausia, daugiau man atrodo žmonėm yra svarbu tas community. Reiškia, kol tu tai darai vienas, tu neturėjai jokio account build. Dabar, kai tu pradėsi daryti su klase ir jeigu tu ateisi 3 kartus į tavo ten, jūsų tą workshopus nepasiruošęs ir nepadaręs, mes tave išspirsim lauk. Tai tu turėsi motivaciją, pirmiausiai nenorėsi prieš savo klasės draugus pasirodyti, kad aš va čia nedarau. Turėsi tokį pressure padaryti ir plus, jeigu žinosi, kad kažkas tau nesigauna, dar 10 žmonių darys lygiai tą patį dalyką, mokysis tą patį dalyką, kokį tą savaitę, tu galėsi ramiai parašyti 5 uždavinį, nesigauna ten 3, ką jūs darot ir gausi tai atsakymą.
Čia toksai klausimas, anglų kalba šeštadienį viskas vyksta, ar yra galimybė biškiuką?
Ne, lietuvių kalba vyksta šeštadienį. Taip. Šeštadienį lietuvių kalba, nebent turime anglus, tai nebūtina žmonės iš užsienio, taip. Tai va, dabar yra viena klasė, kuri mokosi.
Kursas vyksta, kuriuose?
Saulėtekį. Vyksta Saulėtekio ten slėnyje, nežinau, naujam tokia mokosi.
Dėkui, tu.
Klausimas būtų, kokią kainą šitų?
Viskas nemokama. Pamiršau vėl pasakyti.
Koks catchas yra, ko nėra nemokamo dalyko?
Catchas yra, turėsi paskui mėnesį dirbti, vinted nuėjęs, ne, jokauju, nėra catchas.
O tai vis tiek kažkaip nauda, ar šiaip čia kryptų?
Nes nepadarys startų, atsirinks geriausius darbuotojus.
Dalinai taip, tai yra dalinis tas dalykas. Antra vertus, mano firma nemoka už tai, kad aš taip daryčiau. Galbūt aš pats, kai mokiausi, aš pamačiau, kad kai tu išmoksti, paskui atpulinė tvarka paaiškinti kažkam yra labai lengva. Kai jau moki, žinai, šitas svarbus, čia iš vis nesąmonė, šito net nežiūrėk. Pavyzdžiui, TensorFlow 1, dabar įsivaizduoju blogiausias dalykas, ką galėtų mokytis, tai yra pirmojo TensorFlow API. Nes jo tu niekada gyvenime nepamatysi, nebent eisi dirbti ten Anglija šachtą, kurie neupdatinasi ir naudoja kažkokį tą seną frameworką ir nenori niekada updatintis. Tai kai tu esi išmokęs ir kai tu naudoji tą kiekvieną dieną, man pakankamai nedaug reikia, kad aš galėčiau tą palaikyti community ir padėti tam patarti žmonėm kaip mokytis. Ir dėl to, kad man tai daug nekainuoja, aš dėl to taip darau.
Audrozovos grupė, Artificial Intelligence, Raise būdavo anksčiau. Neteko.
Ne, teko girdėti, bet čia ne mano grupė, čia yra Audriaus, Audrius, kuris prezentatorius yra, tai yra Audriaus grupė, ji dabar laikinai tokių žiemos miegų dar miega, bet ji kažkada grįš, aš su Audrium vis karts nuo karto susitinku, dabar kiek žinau, jis pats ten turi šeimyninių įvykių, tai lyg ir keliauja ir greičiausiai vėl grįžins tą grupę.
Noriu asmeniniais klausimais pasikonsultuoti. Man, žodžiu, problema užsiblokavo elektronikos. Aš buvau užsienį ir grįžau, man užsiblokavo elektronikos. Ir dabar aš nežinau, kuris man čia...
Dėl registracijos klausia?
Ne, aš tai negaliu praeiti prie savo informacijos.
O tu jau esi grupė? Nelabai...
Ne, apskritai asmeninė elektronikos, tai
niekas nepasikeitė.
Vienas ir antras. Buvau kažkaip antras atsiblokavęs, bet jis vėl man pradeda dirbinėti.
Aš nežinau, ko galėčiau padėti.
Bet tai dabar, pavyzdžiui, kur čia kreiptis reikia?
Dabar viskas yra,
kam priklauso tas...
O koks paštas?
Pavyzdžiui, Onas ar Gmailas yra problema.
Tai greičiausiai juos reiktų kreiptis. Bet čia labai labai toli to, ką mes... su kuo mes susiję.
Ir kaip rasti banką, kuris, pavyzdžiui, yra valiuta, yra su Android operacinė sistema. Dabar man reikia banką su Windows operacinė sistema, kurio kaip ir...
Jo, žinok, ir su tokiais dalykais mes...
Irgi nežinot. Ne, aš tiesiog patarimą, gal jūs žinot šitoj sferoje.
Visai nežinok.
Jums teko naudotis internetu.
Bet
visur reikalauja Androido, bet yra Windows tokia operacinė sistema, kuri nėra populiari ir jinai nėra populiari tarp...
Kažkaip su
Jeigu apsų nėra sukurta bankų, tai ir nebus. Dažniausiai bankai tokių dalykų neturi, jeigu telefonas yra Windows.
Jo, čia greičiausiai bandy kreiptis į supportą tau tokiais klausimais, to appso supportas tik tai gali padėti. Tu turi klausimą.
Kaip pradžio norėjau tokio trūkumo reikėtų.
Kas buvo pradžioj?
Jo, pačios AI tos kūrų, nes dabar kiek klausau čia iš visų, tai čia tas dalykas, kurio man reikia.
Aha. Mokytis ar būti meetupo dalim?
Ir čia tiesiog šiaip, hebra, susirinkus. Ir kaip suprantu, truputėlį padedi nukreipti, ką reikia mokyti.
Taip, tai čia yra workshop. Taip, mes darom iš principo 3 dalykus. Darom workshopus, ką dabar minėjau, kas vyksta šeštadieniais. Darom meetupus, kas vyksta kartą per mėnesį. Šitas eventas. Workshopai yra skirti tiem žmonėm, kas nori praktiškai hands-on išmokti programuoti. Meetupai yra skirti labiau, jeigu tu nenori išmokti programuoti, bet nori dirbti, nežinau, management susiję su AI ar kažkas tokio. Na, suprasti tą developerius, ką jie daro, bet nebūtinai pačiai išmokti programuoti. Tai va, mes toks overall, much higher level recapas vyksta va šitais meetupais, o ateina nemažai žmonių iš workshopų irgi pasižiūrėti, kokie dalykai.
O dabar jeigu apie tą deep learning levelį, introduction to deep learning, ant ten kas basic buvo, yra jau grupė, suprantu, ne?
Taip, ji yra, viena grupė jau dabar yra in progress, bet aš kaip tik rinksiu dar vieną. Jeigu grįžtame į structure, yra žmonių, kurie pabaigė C klasę ir dabar eis į B klasę, tai jie yra dabar waiting, kol susiburs nauja grupė.
Tai gerai, o C klasėje ką reikėtų žinoti, kad aš visiškai nepasimešiau C klasėje, kad nebūčiau neįtapus ant šokus. Nu, B klasę, jeigu norėčiau eiti.
Tu turi mokėti, nežinau, turi mokėti machine learning, klasikinio machine learning pagrindus.
Supervised and supervised, bet reinforcement dar nereikia.
Ne, reinforcemento nėra pas mus iš vis niekur reinforcemento, reinforcemento nes čia yra totally different. Reinforcementas yra dar viena turėtų būti mokykla, kuri pradeda mokyti reinforcement learning. Reinforcementą gali mokytis, kai pabaigsi visas klases, Aš turiu visai neblogą, yra nebloga knyga Reinforcement Learningui, tai tikriausiai ta knyga plus keletas, Microsoftas turi kursą apie Reinforcement Learningą ir toks labiau nišinis domėjimasis apie šitą dalyką. Bet jis tikrai ne mainstreaminis, darbo nesusirasite paprastai.
O tai dabar man jau reikia suprasti, kas yra PyTorchas?
Ne. Scikit-learn turi labai gerai suprasti.
Scikit-learn?
Taip. Turi būti girdėjęs, kas yra
Tai gerai,
Scikit.
tada galime
NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, visi šitie dalykai turėtų tau būti pažįstami ir ne tik kad žinomi, bet ir naudoti.
Tai gerai, Slackas bus chat'e, ne? Tai kažkur gal...
Taip, kvietimas į chat, į Slacką bus, tada Slack'o general kanale bus paskelbta registracija, užpildai registraciją ir that's it. Ir tada jau bus pakviesta, tada bus priklausomai nuo tų time slotų, aš darau tokią loteriją, tai sufiltruoju visus žmonės, randomly tada pašaflinu ir pasiemu viršutinius kiek man. Ne, čia gerokai trumpiau tas užtrunka, negu aš įvardinau. Tai tiek ir užtrunka, kaip pasakiau, dabar ten 20 minučių ir done.
Labai fainas, aš galvoju, gal eiti kur nors pradės mokytis, kokius nors online kursus ar kažką nusipirkti.
O kur yra tokie kursai?
Vilnius Coding School, dabar Data Analytics pradėjo daryti, bet net ne Science, tiesiog Analytics, bet ten yra viskas labai realiai.
Todėl, kad Data Analytics yra mūsų atitinka D klasė.
Jo, bet ten iš esmės, ką jie moko, tai parsisiųs duomenis, MySQL panaudoti ir tada viską sudėti į Tableau. Ir viskas.
Ok, Tableau.
Tai faina, bet kažkaip pasirodė irgi toksai kažkaip tarpeisikas, tada Udacity žiūrėjo ten skirtingus irgi kursus.
Udacity yra legit, taip. Aš pats dariau Udacity, bet jie yra brangesni, plus jie yra visiškai online. Tai brangesni tuo, kad čia nieko nekainuoja, tai obviously brangesni. Legit, Udacity, pats kaip irgi esu baigęs Udacity ten AI specializaciją. Jo. Na, senais laikais, jau prieš, nežinau, kiek čia, 2 metų. Tai visai neblogai. Aišku, jie buvo man, aš irgi juos labiau dėl to credentialso pirkau. Contento, esu iš tikrųjų radęs geresnio contento Udemy kursuose ir knygose, bet ypač realiai čia yra šitie dalykai yra išmokstami per knygas. Dar nėra tokių gerų kursų, kurie galėtų tave visko išmokyti. Arba turėti mūsų approach'ų ir žiūrėti ten labai, pjaustyti tik tai tas dalis, kurios yra relevant ir geriausios. Arba labiau eiti per knygas, bet knygos ne visiems tinka, nes iš knygų mokytis sunkiau. Gali padaryti copy-paste, sunku sukaupti dėmesį, kai žiūri video, typing along. Nėra, jeigu save prisiverti bent tiek daryti, tai principė negali pralošti. O su knygom yra, net jeigu pražiūri video ir nedarai type along, vis tiek neblogai. Su knyga sunkiau.
Gerai, netrukdau, ačiū Karolina.
Taip, ačiū Karolina ir registruokis į workshopus. Iki. Puiku.
Tai, sakant, pirmin.
Turi klausimą? Tai gal daliau gal jau papasakoti, geriau negu aš.
Aš net neabejoju, plačiau žinai, tas pertvarkyti ir kaip čia. Iš tikrųjų, nes aš pats iš vis esu iš finansų.
Daug iš finansų. Yra iš teisės, iš finansų.
Ir už 9 metus aš taip iš vis dabar sklandau ir ieškau savęs. Ir buvo mintis, kad buvo, ir sakau, aš programavau vaikystės. Realiai, pirmas modeminis žaidimas Lietuvoje padarytas. Tada dar kai ryšys būdavo nemokamas, telefoną mes su draugeliais susikonektinam ir taip darėm. Bet ant Paskalio, assemblerį ten biškinas. Paskui buvo visas karjera nuėjo į ekonomiką. Tai Excelis su VBA-visais, programavimas vyko ir aš čia prieš porą metų pradėjau žiūrėti, gerai, reikia kažkaip užkniso tas oficinis visas vargas ir ten...
Spoiler alert, programuotojai irgi ofisuose dirba taip pat. Daug meetingai bus, biznis bus.
Ta prasme, visas kova su, žinai, povandeniniam srovėm ir kolektyvo.
Bus product owneris, ateis, sakys, dabar darom AI. Ir tu sakai, bet ką? Ne, jokauju, taip nebus.
Ne, čia kitaip. Čia tu labiau, čia vis tiek tu kontroliuoji tai, ką tu darai, produkt, žinai. Aišku, kad aš suprantu, žinai, kad iš esmės tu nepakilsi į tą, turbūt, ten žvaigždę, jau, žinai, apskritai, amžius, kur čia tiek
tų žvaigždžių yra ant rankų pirštų suskaičiuotina, jie yra
dabar numesti vieną karjerą ir pradėti nuo kito, bet va čia bent jau labai perspektyvų, kas irgi su duomenim susijęs ir finansų.
Šiaip vėlgi, čia gal kitas yra, mano tokia patirtis yra, kad IT ir biznis iki šiol nesusišneka.